I'm not normally one to eat this sort of thing. Not salads, just this ready-made thing. It's a little strange, but we saw them at Sam's Club yesterday. We picked them up, and I was like, yeah, okay. Mal took one to school today for lunch. I'm gonna eat one here at home today for lunch, so I guess I gotta open this thing up and get this all prepared. But what I'm mostly excited for is that in 5 minutes, WWDC 2014, it's actually, I think, the 25th WWDC, but it's 2014, begins the annual Apple conference, where they reveal some things. There's rumors about what they're going to be talking about. Supposedly they're not going to show the iPhone because they haven't been showing that at WWDC, but they're going to show iOS 8 and they're going to show OS 10, 10.10, and I'm excited mostly for that because there's supposed to be a redesign. So I'm going to be live responding like I did for E3 last year. Let me get the salad made and then let's watch it. Okay, so I did something bad. I said that I was going to live video this conference as I watched it, and I didn't, because at the start I was like, okay, they're doing the little video thing, and then shortly after that, when they started talking about information, it was very interesting information. It was very cool, a lot of new, interesting, and very exciting updates, and then it just kept coming, and there was not really a point where I was like, all right, that's not, incredible, I'm going to talk about something now. Like, this was really good. And I'm always very cautious to be overly positive about Apple, because there's a lot of people that really hate Apple, and they're very quick to be like, you're an Apple fanboy, your opinion shouldn't matter. But like, it's kind of hard not to gush about this WWDC, because this was hands down the best WWDC conference since Jobs' passing. There have been really great WWDCs in the past. Obviously, one of the most memorable ones is the reveal of the iPhone. Everyone, exploded and went crazy. But this was incredible. I've been watching them for the last couple of years, and this was insane. Like, every single thing was fantastic. And a lot of times, Apple has a tendency to, I don't know, and this goes along with a lot of the people that dislike Apple. Apple has a tendency to take a feature that may not be all that revolutionary and really make it seem like it's revolutionary. Stuff that other people have been doing for a while. Sometimes they'll bring something to the table and they're like, and this blah 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 is going to change the future or whatever. They tend to do that. And if you're in the know, then you're like, okay, but that's been around for a while. This wasn't like that. And in fact, I recall at the last WWDC last year, there was a segment where they brought someone on stage and they had remote control cars that you could use with your iPhone. And looking back at that, in comparison to what this one was, it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. So that is my gush about WWDC, and I always feel like I'm fairly level-headed about things. People don't like Apple. They're very expensive, blah, blah, blah. I do like Apple, and I do feel like their products are generally a little expensive, maybe a bit overpriced, except for the new Mac Pro. That thing is certainly worth the cost of entry. But this was a good conference. So, because I didn't talk about it, I'm actually now on Apple's website, because now they've updated everything about the preview. So I'm going to talk a little bit about stuff I remember and also stuff that's on their site, because there are some things that was really, really amazing. So the first thing they did, they always start their conferences with this inspirational video thing, which is just generic Apple. If you want to call it brainwashing garbage, you could call it brainwashing garbage. So they did that. No sign of Joni Ive, I don't think, unless I was in the kitchen at that point. Then they immediately jumped into OS 10. So we have a new version of OS 10, which I'm pretty excited about. I never installed Mavericks. Having a Hackintosh is a bit problematic because you don't know if something's going to work. I could have just, made a clone of my drive, tested it, and then jumped in. But because I had so many problems with Mountain Lion, in particular Final Cut crashing due to some of the stuff with Mountain Lion on my Hackintosh, I was a little leery. Eventually, ironically, Apple released an update that fixed my Hackintosh. Thanks, Apple. But for a while, things were a little hairy, so I've been kind of leery about updating. But now it looks like I'm fine to skip Mavericks, because the new OS 10 is amazing. First off, it's beautiful. I know not everyone loved the flat redesign of iOS 7, but I did. I thought it was a really great step in a good direction. But now it's being adopted on OS 10. Which is now called Yosemite, not called Weed, which also would have been an interesting title for sure. So Yosemite looks fantastic. Just looking at it, looks beautiful. It looks a lot like iOS 7. They started by showing off Spotlight, which maybe not a lot of people use, but I use for everything. If I'm going to do pretty much anything on my computer, I start with Spotlight. And yeah, you can move your mouse up there into the corner of the screen and click it, but I'm a power user and I do everything with the keyboard. So Command Space brings Spotlight to the center of attention, and you can type anything and just launch it immediately. The cool thing is now Spotlight happens in the middle of your screen. It happens very large, and some of the coolest features is that it now invokes information from other places. It invokes information from Wikipedia. So if you want to look up a Wikipedia article, you don't have to tab over to Chrome and press Command T and then type in, you know, whatever Wikipedia. You can just hit Command Space and type in what you're looking for, and there will be a Wikipedia article, and that's fantastic. It also does unit conversions, which is awesome. There's no more going to Google and being like, what is this in kilometers or whatever. You can just type it into Spotlight. So that was cool. I was really excited about that. They touched on a few other cool things. They've made the window smaller. They show more information. There's updates to Mail. There's updates to Calendar. There's updates to Map. There's updates to all this stuff, which was really cool. I also like that they allow you to change your bar to black, which is neat. I would probably do that. I think I'd prefer that over the white. The big, huge update, which had me going, what? Well, leading into that, they had, I think it was Tim Cook on stage, or maybe it was Craig at the time. I don't know. Someone had mentioned that you have your green bubble friends, which is amusing to me because, yes, it's true. If you are in the Apple ecosystem, or if you just use an iPhone, you know that whenever you're using iMessages, when you're talking to other Apple devices, you get blue messages in response, and they will follow you everywhere. You can set it up on your computer, which means that even if your phone is not nearby, if someone texts you, it shows up on your computer, and you can reply, you can do all this stuff on your computer, so everything follows you around. But if you have a friend who doesn't have an Apple device, they show up as a green bubble, and the green bubbles aren't a part of iMessage. It's not data, it's an actual SMS, so it doesn't follow you to the computer, but now they do. Now they will. Now they will actually come to your computer, and which I was not expecting, but what's really, really cool is that now you can get phone calls. Apparently, and I'm pretty sure it just matters if your phone is in proximity. But as long as your iPhone is in proximity of your Mac, when you receive a phone call, you can answer it on your computer now. So if someone calls me, I can get a notification on my computer that someone's calling me, and I can answer it on my computer, connecting through my iPhone, which could just be, you know, across the room. It's one of those things that you don't think you need, and I guess you don't need, but it's really cool to have it. It's such an amazing idea. And I'm just really, really excited for it. When they revealed that, I was like, wow, that's really freaking cool. So now you can answer phone calls on your computer. It's not that you haven't been able to do this before, it's just the way they're implementing it is very creative and very, very cool. One of those things that you say, I didn't know I needed it before, but now I have it. I'm pretty excited. Now that's pretty much OS 10, and I was really excited for OS 10, and I was like, man, I wonder what they're going to do for iOS. Now switch over to the iOS tab. They also changed some stuff for like Safari and the iCloud drive. There's a bunch of stuff to talk about. I'm not going to remember to talk about it all. They talked about iOS, and before I move into that, I'll talk about Handoff. Handoff was this new feature where they said, you know, if you're working on a project on your Mac and your iOS device is within reach, there will be an icon that shows up on your iOS device that will allow you to just hit a button and instantly be working on exactly what you were working on your Mac on your iPhone or your iPad or whatever, which is really cool. So if you're working on a document or a spreadsheet or whatever, and you're on the computer and you're like, oh, I gotta go. As you're on your way out, you can just hit a button and everything that you were just doing goes right to your phone and you're on your way. Really, really cool. One of those things that you never knew you needed it, but now that it's here, you're going to be really thankful it's there. iOS 8 was, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they added to it. Everyone knew that the health app was coming, which actually, in my opinion, it's not that I was looking forward to the health app. It's just one of those things that I knew was going to be there. So I was like, okay, there's going to be a health app. But then it wasn't even about the health app. Like, that was the least interesting thing to me. There was so much other stuff going on. They talked about photos. Photos is becoming crazy. While I was watching this, Jarrett was watching it as well, and Jarrett is a photographer. So it was interesting to get his insight. And I also have another friend who is a developer, who has developed for Android, iOS, Windows Phone. So he's done all these different development systems, and it was interesting to get his insight into the development portion, which I'll talk about in a minute. The Photos is amazing. They have these new capabilities where it's honestly, it's like a mini Lightroom. It really is, and that's what Jarrett was saying. A lot of the tools that they're bringing right within the Photos app, it's similar to Lightroom. Obviously, it doesn't have full functionality like that yet, but there's a lot of cool power that you have without the need of a third-party app. So Photos are really cool. Now there's messaging, there's audio messaging, which I don't really think I would use, but maybe I would. Probably not though. But basically, you can hold a button, record a message, and then swipe, and it just sends an audio message, and it automatically prunes those out of your system because they take up a lot of space. It does the same thing with video, unless you want to like save them. So I mean, that's neat. It's one of those things like I probably won't use, but the fact it's there is neat. They changed it where when you double tap your home button to open up all of your available applications, it shows all of your favorite people at the top, so you can instantly call them. You know, that's neat. They said that the keyboard is getting smarter, and they have, I think they call it QuickType, but whatever. Whenever you're typing stuff, they have a basically smarter keyboard, which didn't actually mean a hill of beans to me because I don't feel like I would ever use that. But the QuickType, SmartType, whatever thing was pretty neat whenever they showed an example where they said someone receives a message and it says, you know, would you like to go to a dinner or a movie tonight? And the QuickType thing comes up with automatic options based on what was said. So one of the options was dinner, one was a movie, and one was not sure. So it took the context of the conversation. It was like, here, just hit a button. That's neat. That's pretty cool, and I would love to see that in action, and apparently we will in the fall. Family sharing is very cool. Valve recently did that with Steam a few months ago where you can actually share accounts. Mal and I have been doing that, so I have a ton of Steam games. Mal can play them, which is cool. As long as I'm not using Steam, Mal can play my stuff. And now they're bringing family sharing to iOS, which means that if I have a game that Mal wants to play, Mal can play it. If I have a movie that Mal wants to watch, Mal can watch it. It doesn't matter that I'm the one that bought it. We're on the same thing, so she can play it and watch it. That's really cool, and that's one of those things that should just exist. iCloud Drive exists, basically making iCloud better. You can put anything in the iCloud now. It's pretty neat. They also give you 5 gigs of space, which is plenty for most people. Health, which I talked about, it's neat. The cool thing about Health, and they also did this with their home sharing and their other thing, which I'm not going to remember. They're taking apps that exist, different resources that exist, and they're bringing them all into one spot. And they're saying, hey, developers, you can develop your app to work within our app, so everything is in one unique spot, one easy to get to place. So all of the health apps that exist in the App Store can now access this one app. So you can go to that one app, and the information that all the other apps gather will be there. And that's really, really cool. Otherwise, Spotlight got better on iOS as well, just like they did with OS X. Now you can swipe down and type in things, and it'll even bring up search results for Wikipedia, the App Store if you're looking for a particular app, movies, etc. So that's an improvement. That's one of those things I'll have to play with, but I know I will use. And the next thing is getting into the SDK stuff, but before I jump into that, I'll do something that kind of bridges the gap. One of the things they're allowing people to do now, or developers to do, is to link apps. You can have extensions in apps that can talk to other apps. One of the problems is that apps can't talk to each other in iOS, which is kind of a problem, but now they can. And they talk to each other in a special way, so the apps aren't actually, touching each other. They're touching iOS and then coming back, which is good because it keeps all of the apps secure and the apps can't get to your information, etc. So that's good. One of the things that I thought would be really cool to see was, on Safari, when you're browsing Safari on your phone, you have a button that pulls up all of these additional options for Safari. You can instantly share it to a message, you can share it to Facebook, you can share it to Twitter. But what about other apps? Now you can. So now you can actually give permission to an app to appear in that bar. So if you want to post things to Pinterest from, Safari, you can. You can do that for any app. Any developer has the power to do that now, which means that you can completely transform Safari into a Safari that you want to use. Good. Good. Another example they gave is something that Android users have been familiar with for a long time. Custom keyboards. Now you will be able to install custom keyboards. So if you don't want to use the iOS keyboard, which I'm not really sure why you wouldn't want to, but if you have something in particular that you're used to using on Android or whatever, you can use that. You can download custom keyboards and use them system-wide, because that keyboard can interact with other apps, which means it can interact with all apps. Pretty neat. So the last portion of the conference was entirely dedicated to developers, which is huge. As far as I know, that's never happened before. I've been watching WWDC for the last few years, and they've never done that. That's never been a thing. They may have talked about a few things, but the software development kit that Apple has created is now huge. The update is bigger than it's ever been, and they wanted to talk about it, and I'm so glad they did, and they put it into terms that everyone could understand, which was really, really useful. First and foremost, and I just talked about it with the extensions things, but apps can talk to each other, which is a much needed thing in iOS, because apps can communicate with each other and extend the usefulness of each app by using another app. One of the examples that they showed with that, I know I gave the Safari example, but there are photo apps that do cool things. So in the example that they had online, they showed like a watercolor app, which transforms your photo into what looks like a watercolor painting. Normally, you'd have to open that app, you'd have to import the image from your photo library, do your stuff, then save it back to your photo library. But now, because you could give that app permission to run within the Photos app, you could open your photo in the Photos app, hit a button for the watercolor thing, and it would just come up within the Photos app. You do your thing, and you're done, which is really, really awesome. Another cool thing is that they are giving developers access to Touch ID, so they'll be able to let people use their apps using Touch ID. If you want to put in a password for anything, there's going to be new stuff for Notification Center. Basically, you can develop your app to be compatible with Notification Center, so you can show custom stuff. Right now, Notification Center is really cool, but you pretty much only use it for messages, email, and the weather, etc. And now you'll be able to do all sorts of things, and you can actually interact with things from Notification Center, which is really cool. One of the examples they showed was bidding on a guitar on eBay. So you've been outbid, and it's right in your Notification Center. You never have to leave Notification Center. You just tap the button, bam, bid placed. This is all really, really cool. Once again, I talked about iCloud documents. My developer friend was freaking out a little bit near the end because he's done work on a bunch of different stuff, but he does like iOS, and all of this stuff is going to make his life a lot easier. HealthKit, HomeKit, CloudKit, those are the things I talked about earlier, where Apple was saying, all of you guys are developing similar things, let's unify that, the Apple way. We're going to unify that so all of you are developing things and it'll all make sense, an ease of use thing for people to access. They updated SpriteKit and SceneKit, and they have this new thing called Metal, and once again, they did a good job in the conference of kind of using layman's terms to explain this to non-developers who are watching, like me. But what Metal does is it ends up giving developers more performance, up to like 10 times more power or something, from the processing chip by getting rid of a lot of the OpenGL stuff, and that's even terms that I'm not completely familiar with. But my developer friend was freaking out, and he said that it was incredible, and they had a tech demo that was running in real time, and it looked incredible, so I was all for that. He also says that he hopes that it comes to OS X at some point in the future, which would be pretty sweet, because that would just mean more power for things on the computer. And then finally, in the biggest introduction, in the one where he was like, what? They introduced Swift, which is touted on the Apple website as a brand new programming language. And they talked about it a little bit in the conference, but they basically took an existing programming language, C, Objective-C, I don't exactly know all of the terms for it. If Alex were here, he could talk about it. And they basically cut it down without all of the fluff. So it allows developers to make things a little more quickly because they don't have to worry about typing in so much stuff. It was a big deal. And I normally talk about these things, and I'm normally like, well, this happened and this happened. This is one of those things that if you have even a passing interest and you have the time, the conference was about 2 hours, I would highly recommend you watch it. If you are interested in this stuff, seriously, watch it. If you're in the Apple ecosystem at all, I think you owe it to yourself to watch it because it's very, very interesting. But even if you're not, you might want to check it out. I want to claim at the end of this video that at least I don't view myself as an Apple fanboy, although Mal and myself do use Apple computers and we have Apple phones. I don't feel that Apple is necessarily better than Android or Windows or Linux, if you want to include Linux. It's just a different thing. everyone has different preferences, and it comes down to your preference. They can all, I mean, on a general scale, they all do the same thing. You know, all phones can do the same thing. All hardware, all computers can do the same thing, but they all do it a little differently. And in my experience working with multiple operating systems and working with multiple phone systems, or at least Mal, because Mal's had an Android, we really like Apple. And it's really nice to be within the ecosystem and have everything work so easily within each thing. Yep. So I think that's all I have to say about that. I'm going to put a link to this in the description if you want to watch it. Once again, very recommended because it's incredibly interesting. Really, seriously, the best WWDC in recent memory. Fantastic watch, and it's going to be a heck of a year for Apple. No iPhone 6, although they haven't been doing new iPhones at WWDC for a while now. That's probably going to come in August, so there will be another one of these videos in August, and it'll be fun to watch, I hope. Thank you so much for watching. I'm very excited about these new releases in the fall, and it looks like my Hackintosh is finally going to get an upgrade because I really want Yosemite. It's going to be a fun year. Thanks for watching, and as always, let's meet back tomorrow, shall we? I mean, look at this lettuce. We can eat this. It's food. All of this is food. It's an exciting time.
Isn't this the same symbol that was on the tower?
Yeah. That's gotta mean something, right?
Maybe a secret passage?
In a fireplace? Kinda on the nose, don't you think?
Yeah, too simple.